Hello, Put Me in Coaching family. It is the last day of August. I can't believe how quickly this month has gone, as well as how quickly this year is going. But here we are. We are a little over halfway through the third quarter of the year and moving full steam ahead. So if you're watching live, go ahead, drop a hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching the replay, go ahead, drop a hashtag replay. Doesn't matter when you get the information, just as long as you are getting the information. Tonight, we're really going to dive into becoming a leader of yourself. And I think this is an important concept, especially when we talk about long-term change. Because when we want long-term results, we have to do something that differently than we've done in the past. And so in order to do that, we have to take control. We have to become a leader of ourselves in order to get those long-term results and those forever results that we're wanting. And I think this is an important concept that isn't taught enough because we get so dependent on something happening, right? And then we forget to be dependent on the process, which if we become dependent on the process, we can then start to lead ourselves. Now, it's still great to have the accountability in place and the coaching in place, but in order to make those lifelong changes, we have to become a leader of ourselves. And then that also allows us to become a leader of others. And this concept came to me as most of my ideas come to me while I'm doing cardio. And my mind is going a mile a minute to really bring value and add value. And what is it that we need? What's missing? What's that piece that a lot of people don't ever fully achieve, that then they get into that yo-yo diet culture, right? Because that's not what this is about. This is about making long-term changes. And I've been reading the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And it got me thinking, when we think in terms of leading others, we've got to learn to lead ourselves first. And that's all in the what we think and what we do. And so we have this process that we just have to get really good at following the process, but also trusting the process. That's what this says. Trust the process. And I thought about that today because it's inevitable that a lot of times we are our own worst critic. That's the reality. Okay. We are our own worst critic. And when we get into that critical mode, we're not being leaders of ourselves. Think about the last time you were leading someone, managing someone, whatever that looked like. Were you extremely hard on them, or were you more hard on yourself? Right? You find ways to nicely approach somebody that you're leading. And so when we don't do that to ourselves, that's where that disconnect comes in. And then you're shattering your confidence, and then you retreat back to old habits. So I want to talk about two of the laws of leadership specifically tonight. So the first one I want to talk about is the law of the lid. And this is all about raising your lid through personal development and continuous learning and growing. And what's the best way to do that? It's that fifth step of the 7-step signature system, behavior modification. We have to change the things we're doing in order to elevate. And so the law of the lid says we can only lead as high as one step below of whatever level we've achieved. So if you've got levels 1 through 10, if you're only leading yourself at a 4, well, then you're only getting the results of that 1 to 3. right? But if you can start leading yourself at that 9, 10 level, you're going to be getting the results you want. So how do you do that? Scripting is one, right? Reading great books, whether they're leadership focused, personal development focused, spiritually focused, whatever it looks like for you, whatever works for you, right? You can read your devotionals, you can do leadership books, you can do self-help books, whatever that looks like for you. Identify what are the areas that you struggle in. Is it that you're great in thinking positively, but maybe it's the application of that positive thinking and the application of putting systems and processes in place? Well, then maybe you need to read some more leadership books, right? But maybe you've got the systems down, you understand the process, but you're always thinking about worst case scenario. Then you need to be reading some personal development and mental toughness books, right? You've got to think about what is it that you're lacking, right? Is it the what you do? Is it the what you think? Where do you need to grow? Okay, because you have the system in place, you have the process in place. And so that law of the lid says you need to always be learning and always be striving to do a little bit better. So I read at least one personal development book a month. And I typically, so I'll read um, some sort of mental toughness book or like a personal growth book, right? But then I'll also read a leadership or business book. And so those are typically the two types of books that I'm always reading. Okay. And so when we think about the law of the lid, I'm growing in both areas, right? Both the positive and the mental toughness, positive thinking, but then I'm also growing in my leadership ability, and that includes leading myself. So that's the first one. That's the law of the lid. So think about, what do you need to implement? Okay, we're going to have a couple of action steps tonight. So think about, what area of your life do you need to lead better in? Right? Maybe it's a couple areas. Maybe becoming a better leader of yourself, it's going to inevitably make you a better leader of others, but maybe you don't want to lead others, and that's okay. You don't have to. But you have to lead yourself. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's great to follow other people and be led by others, and you should, right? I have lots of leaders and mentors and people that I work with. However, I have to lead myself and hold myself accountable in order to get to those people, right? In order to create the habits that they're teaching me. So I have to lead myself. So that's number one. That's the law of the lid. Always be learning and growing. All right. The next one is the law of process. And in his book, he talks about a lady who worked for the IRS. She had a law degree, but she was never promoted the entire time she was at the IRS. And so when she retired, now this is a long time ago, she was making about $3,000 a year, $3,100 a year. And when she passed away, she left over $20 million to a university that she had no ties to. She'd never visited their campus, but she left her entire inheritance to them. But how is she able to grow $3,000 a year into over $20 million, right? So, and it was because she followed a process. She was brilliant. She worked for the IRS, so she was really great at numbers. And so she saw this process of, okay, if I invest here, I've saved this amount of money, so I'm going to invest it, and I'm going to do whatever she did with it, right? And she grew it. It was the law of process, right? If we apply the law of process, we have no choice but to be successful. And as leaders, when we lead ourselves, we have to truly understand the process. So one, we're trusting the process, but we have to understand it first. That's step 2 of the 7-step signature system, education. It's so important to understand what it is that you're needing to follow and teach. And by teach, I mean you're teaching yourself, right? So you're getting the education, you're opting in. So all of these things are the process, not to mention the entire 7-step signature system. A system is a process, right? So you have to trust the process. And when you apply that process to the different pillars, the what you eat, what you think, and what you do, you're able to start consistently raising that lid. And then one more, I know I said we were only going to talk about two, but this one ties in really nicely, is the law of navigation. Okay. So the law of navigation says that a good leader is able to think several steps ahead of whatever the next thing coming is. Okay. And this is something that in behavior analysis, we all do this, right? We all are constantly thinking, right? A lot of us think of it in terms of worrying about something, and we're worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, right? Or may never happen. That's that worst case scenario. So again, if that's you, if you find yourself always thinking about worst case scenario, go read some positive thinking books, right? Figure out how to raise your vibration so you're not automatically going to that worst case scenario. But when you think about the law of navigation, in this one, he gave the example of two explorers. I think they were Norwegian. Two explorers had two different groups, and they were set out to explore the South Pole. And one group, when they arrived, they were worn out, exhausted. They were down and out, right? And they found the flag and the recount of whomever was there, the other guy that made it there first with his team, and they had beat him by a month. And so what it said was the leader of this group that, they were tired and they were there a month later, he didn't have the law of navigation mastered. But the other guy, he was studying. He went to the Native Americans in the coldest parts of North America to understand, how do you survive? What kind of clothing do you need to wear when you're in the navigating these temperatures and all of that. So he was thinking several steps ahead because he knew, okay, this is what's going to happen. So I need to prepare my team, or in our case, when we're talking about leading ourselves, I need to prepare myself. And so what do you do when you're thinking about the law of navigation? All that is planning ahead. That is the law of navigation. And that's how you lead yourself effectively. You think about, what do I have going on this week? What do I have going on next week, next month? Right? So planning out. Right now, I'm having to balance career and powerlifting. And I'm having to make some choices that I've not been faced with in the past, right? I have two events happening on the same day, and I have to choose, right? Am I going to choose between career, or am I going to choose a hobby, right? On one hand, I want to choose the hobby because it's what I love doing, and I don't like not showing up when I say I'm going to do something. But then on the other hand, I recognize the importance and the implications that not showing up at the one for my career has, right? So you make those choices. That's thinking ahead. That's looking ahead and planning ahead and figuring out, okay, well, so maybe this time I can't do the hobby, but then in a couple months when they overlap again, I can do the hobby, right? And so just understanding that part of it and being able to navigate to set yourself up for success. And so with that, what events do you have coming up this week? Are there dinners that you have to have out? Well, great. What we know is that you don't have to eat on plan 100% of the time. Okay, so if you have a dinner coming up that's out, plan ahead. What are you going to eat while you're there? Are you going to choose to stay on plan or not? And if you're not, that's okay. Work it into your plan, and that's one of your treat meals. Great, no problem, right? Because then it is part of your plan if you've planned it ahead. Where we get into trouble is when we don't plan ahead and then we're stuck making these last minute split second decisions, and we're stuck in Antarctica without the proper clothing, right? So that's that analogy there, that it's like, if you're not prepared, you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's the law of navigation. So when you think about it, think of those three things, okay? So these are your action items for the week. So you've got the law of the lid, okay? Where do you need to spend time raising your lid? Do you need to spend more time on positivity, positive thinking, meditation, scripture, that kind of stuff? Or do you need to spend a little bit more time on the processes and understanding how to apply those processes, right? Or maybe it's a little bit of both, and that's okay, right? So where do you need to start raising your lid so that you're preparing? Okay. The next one, the law of process. Okay. Which part of the process is not happening, or which part of the process could you do a little bit better? Maybe you're on track, right? And you're following, or you just need to keep doing what you're doing and applying the process. That might be the part of this that you're really good at. Okay, but what do you need to clean up a little bit? And then the third thing, the law of navigation. Commit to yourself and put in your calendar, when are you going to be planning your meals for the week? When are you going to plan your activity for the week? When are you going to plan the personal development that we talked about in raising your lid, right? Put it on your calendar until it becomes a habit. If it's not a habit, it should be on your calendar. So take 10 to 15 minutes each Sunday to plan out the week ahead. What events do you have coming up? What goals are you working toward? Is there any obstacles that you can see that you can plan around and strategize around? Okay, what is it that you need to implement? Okay, that's the law of navigation. So, where in your life do you need to start navigating a little better? And this is going to set you up for so much success. So, those three things, the law of the lid, the law of the process, and the law of navigation. And you can actually go and look those up on YouTube. He has all of them there if you want to just listen to those three, right? So you just type in the law of the lid, the law of the process, the law of navigation, and you can hear the stories behind them. And it's powerful. And think of the ways that those apply to you leading yourself, because until we become true leaders of ourselves, we're not going to have that long-term change and long-term lifestyle and long-term results that we're wanting. We have to become our biggest leader. And sometimes that's just the law of navigation, understanding, hey, I don't have all the information. I need to go figure out where to get it and who to get it from. And I promise you, once you start applying that and start becoming committed to leading yourself, you are going to start achieving goals beyond your wildest dreams, because you are going to apply those processes and apply those systems and become system dependent. And by system dependent, I mean whatever system you are plugged into, you are going to become dependent on that and then learn how to truly lead yourself, and then have your coaching and accountability in place to do just that. Be the person that provides that information where you've said, hey, this is what I need help with, right? This is where I'm at. Okay. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. If you're not working tomorrow, enjoy your day off. You have earned it. I am super proud of each and every one of you for continuing to show up and choose yourself and opt in. You are on your way to becoming true leaders of yourselves. And I could not be more excited and more grateful that you are choosing to do that with me alongside. So I will see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. And in the meantime, I will see you on text message or in the comments. Have a great week, everyone. See you next Sunday. Bye.